Okay, thank you for letting me know. So again, hey, thank you guys for attending today's session. And we're going to talk about this is Mr. Calvin's show, but I want to make sure I pop in real quick just for a little bit to talk to you guys quickly about some other couple of nuts and bolts pieces as well. I know Jenny's going to also talk about a few nuts and bolts as well. But first and foremost, and this is all related to our MAP testing, but I did, as a staff, want to talk to you guys about our NWEA testing, okay? I'll let you guys know, Jenny sent that out, but I definitely wanted to go ahead and give a shout out and a kudos to our kids, but also to you, okay, as the staff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We did a phenomenal job. I know for some of you guys, I know Jenny sent out this big packet of information, and for some of you that may not be the math or the reading or the English teachers, it might have just it might have went into your special folder, that trash can, you know what I mean, or that recycle bin. But if you really dove into it, we did phenomenal. Our kids did great. And I wanted to make sure I reiterated with that, and you heard that from me, but also that you echo that with your students. I talked to some individual team leads as well the past couple of days about the work that's been done. And I wanted to go ahead and celebrate with you on that. I am going to be addressing that here in a couple of days with the student body as well about the great job that they did on our spring NWEA test. Now, I want to provide perspective here for everybody with these NWEA exams. We did a great job. We beat the brakes off of almost every middle school, and I'm a competitive dude, and I love it, okay? I love it, and I'm here for it. But please understand this, the work is not done. The job is not done. If anything, we have more work to do. And here in 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing our testing. If I went back and I looked at what made us successful, I go back to almost a month ago, even longer, when I was talking to the reading cadres and the math cadres about how are we going to change what we do in our process. Because again, it's a process. Learning is a process, and how we do things is a process. And we went back and we just say, hey, what are we going to do and change our modality of how we deliver the tests? Also our expectations. And if you guys remember here about a month and a half ago, we sat as a staff and we had some of our teacher leaders and some of our teachers in the building go over reading expectations as well as math expectations. And again, I want to shout out those people, but also shout out you guys for adhering to those. And guess what? Our kids actually show their work. They do. They're encouraged through a lot of really important things as far as what the reading is. We give space, right? We don't try to cram all of our tests in on one day. And guess what? We yield better results. Okay. So the process worked, and it's going to continue to work. We have to finish strong. And the example that I gave people, and I gave people, everybody I talked to in the past couple of days is, guess what? The Chiefs are awesome, and the Chiefs did a great record, had a great record, right? They won 14 plus games. Nobody cares about that, right? What do they remember? The Chiefs what? They lost the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about what their record was. People care about the Super Bowl. Guess what, guys? Our Super Bowl is coming up here in about 2 weeks. So NWEA, it's great. Awesome, great diagnostic test, looks phenomenal. It helps us out in our balanced scorecard, and we'll talk about that in the coming weeks as far as our planning. But our Super Bowl is coming up here. We need to win the Super Bowl. I ain't trying to hear about Tom Brady, okay, AKA Walden. I ain't trying to hear about it, all right? I'm trying to hear about Patrick Mahomes. We are the Patrick Mahomes of the middle schools. That's right, I said it, okay? And again, let's get it done. Be encouraged. Let's springboard all of this energy into what we're going to go ahead and do here in a couple of weeks. So with that being said, thank you, Matt, Jenny, go ahead and talk about some of those other pieces, but hey, great job guys, and keep it up.
So in the chat, I just put some information down that everybody will want to click on, and I'll send it to you in an email a little bit later today. But I want to talk before Matt gets into the big training session about the month of May, because it is time for our big Super Bowl, and that is MAP testing in the middle school level. We've geared up for it all this year. We actually geared up for it all last year, but we didn't get to pull it off as a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade building. So this is our time to really focus on, and I was told Adrian today, I was like, this is like what finals are for a high school. This is our time in May that our kids really, and teachers have geared up for all year long. And so with that, we need to think about actual learning and other assessments and projects in May, and we need to be cognizant of that because we want all of our kids' energy, really their brain power, to go into their MAP test. And the way we've got it scheduled this year, really the first 2 weeks are pretty much devoted to MAP testing. So that means during those first couple weeks of May, you don't want to be doing heavy homework. You don't want to be given other big tests. You don't want to have other big projects due. You don't want to do those types of things. It kind of defeats the purpose of trying to end the year strong with our assessment. And the other thing is that we've got going on this year is our online learners are actually extending into the third week of May too. So that means we need to talk about our learning schedule for really the entire month of May to finish off the testing or the school year strong with our academic focus. And so in the chat, I put on the online learning cycle, which really for MAP testing starts next week because of how we go Wednesday to Wednesday with our online learners. So across the board in our whole building, that next cycle that starts next Wednesday and goes till the following Wednesday, that's already impacted by MAP testing because we start MAP testing that very first week of May. We'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then the next week is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then the next week, which is typically just makeup week, is actually full day testing on Monday and Tuesday for online kids as an option. So because of that, April 28th through May 5th, that's really the first week of MAP testing. For your online learners, new content's okay, but really be cognizant of testing. Again, don't overload them with homework, major projects, other exams. That's true for your in-person kids too as well, but I know most of you realize that. Then we get the next learning cycle for online kids is May 5th through the 12th. And again, some of them are testing as well during that week with our in-person kids. Again, new content's okay, but really keep in mind that the focus is on MAP testing. So don't be overloading them with extra stuff, homework, lots of project things. Keep it lighter. And then we have a little fluky thing because then we've got 2 weeks left of school, but we need to do our learning cycle for the online kids. Instead of 1 week, we need to go ahead and make that a 2-week cycle. So again, that one starts May 12th, but it won't cut off at the next Wednesday because a lot of the online kids are going to spend that Monday and Tuesday in all day testing. Like they're going to test from the time they get here until they go home at night. And that's going to be a full, big, super test day for them. So that's going to be pretty strenuous on them. So keep that in mind. So we want that last learning cycle that the online kids will really have to be May 12th to May 26th. Again, May new content's all right, but really keep in mind, really be extra cognizant of testing that week because of testing fatigue. And also that's the very last week of school, that May 26th. So keep in mind that way too. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we didn't MAP test last year and we sure didn't have online testers 2 years ago. So that changes up our MAP testing window just a little bit. I don't have anything else unless Adrian, you want to say any more about that? I've got that posted in the chat and I'll send you guys an email later with those dates in case somebody's not here to see that, but I don't have anything else. Adrian, you ready for Matt to go on?
Yeah, we'll touch base next week with some more nuts and bolts about the end of the school year. I know a lot of you guys had a lot of the end of the school year questions as far as get-togethers and things like that. And I've talked to individual team leads on that, and I'll have more details hopefully soon when it comes to our end of the year celebrations. But go ahead, Matt. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Let me bring up. I'm going to share presentation. All right. Are you guys seeing the black share screen, or are you seeing just the? Okay. Yeah, I think. Hold on. I need to flip it over here. Okay. That should be better. All right. Okay, guys. First of all, I also wanted to say real quick, I appreciated both the, I know I shared some information yesterday, and I appreciated all the positive well wishes, and as well as the good-natured ribbing about being a traitor and all that. So made me feel loved. I appreciate it. Kind of piggybacking off of Dr. Singletary's story about if you make it all the way to the Super Bowl and end up losing the big one, no one cares. The favorite response I got was from Mr. John Scott Morrison, who his first response about 10 seconds after I sent out that announcement was, "No one really cares, Calvin." So made me feel loved, but I appreciate it, and definitely will be thinking about you guys, and we'll miss my time at Plaza. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our training here. The majority of this is the slides that are required by DESE. So some of these I'll kind of glass over and go through quick. We have some more Plaza specific stuff here kind of down at the, towards the end of it. So they always start off with what's new, what's changed. Obviously we didn't test last year, so just a refresher in general anyway. Biggest change is that calculators, used to be there were certain sections of the math section that calculators were not permitted. So calculators are permitted for all of the sessions of math. There is the first session they take, they're not permitted to use a scientific or graphing calculator, but they will have access to calculators, and those are embedded, or kids can use their own on all the math sections. They just can't use scientific on the very first section of math. Also, the other one, they're just calling eDirect something different. It's now the portal, but that doesn't really affect us. So those are the two major changes. Just an overview of the testing schedule in general. For English language arts, note that the 8th grade actually tests in 4 sessions because they have one of their sessions is a written response. And then also, so then everybody else, all of our 6th and 7th graders will be testing in 3 sessions. Math is 3 sessions for everyone, with the exception of our students that are our algebra students actually do not have to take the 8th grade math. They will in place take their 8th grade end of course exam. And Stephanie and I are working, Ms. Bates and I are working on the details of that, but just an FYI, those kids will get, on the math days the algebra kids will get pulled out of your regular testing group so they can do their EOC. And then this is new for Plaza, since this is the first year we're actually map testing since we've been a 6 through 8 building, that we'll also have 8th grade doing those extra 2 sessions of science, which is why we extend our testing schedule a bit. Okay. Universal tools versus accommodations. We don't have to get much in detail on that for you guys. Just know there are a lot of tools and stuff that are built in that the kids can use, highlighting tools, notes, all sorts of stuff as they're taking the test. There are additional accommodations that our SPED teachers have already put in, the accommodations for kids that need extra help or have extra accommodations through their IEPs or 504s or through being a ELL student. So just be aware of that. It shouldn't shouldn't affect you guys directly, but you may have some kids embedded in your class that will have some extra accommodations and stuff. Most of those are provided through the computer. The kids that were already getting accommodations from NWEA will get pulled out to their small groups and will get their accommodations the same way they did when we were doing NWEA testing. Just know that one of the built-in universal tools is that students can get read aloud. We are not using that. It's recommended by DESE that you only give read aloud to kids that are used to using it. So that's the only kind of weird one. It's available, but we're opting as a district, and where it's recommended by the state that we not allow all kids to use the read aloud function if they're not used to using it. So just know that will only be kids that have accommodations that are already built in through their IEP or 504. Invalidations, the nice thing is the main ones that can invalidate are for different grade levels, so there's really nothing major issues that would be invalidations. We could have some issues if we ended up putting in accommodations wrong for some of our SPED kids, but overall that's not an issue, but it's just something that they want to make sure from a testing security standpoint that we talk about. We'll skip over this one. At this point, we have nobody doing they are options for large print or paper pencil tests, but no one has that accommodation at this point. Testing tools. So one thing to be aware of with this year with the test tickets is your test tickets are going to look different, which is actually one of the reasons that we're not doing all of our little sorting party when we have to cut up all the hundreds of map testing tickets that we've been planning. We figured out a way with working with the other middle schools to actually put the test tickets out and the login information out on a Excel document. So the plan is we're going to spend the next few days here sorting those tickets, and then when you actually have your testing day, you will get an Excel document and just a sheet that has all of your students' tickets and their login information on it. So basically, we'll make that a little bit larger than a normal Excel document. And the idea is you can just walk around the classroom and cut that yourself. But basically, I'd walk up, if Dr. Singletary is my first kid that I'm testing, I walk up to his desk. He's the first one on the list. I cut off that first slip and hand him his slip right off the Excel document, and he can log in. I move on to the next kid. We think that's going to save a lot of time with sorting, and we think that's going to just make it simpler to get kids logged in and out. Then all you will need to do with your, instead of the old system, those of you that have been here in the past, the old system where we have to sort out all the tickets and everything through envelopes, you'll just have an envelope that if kids didn't test, were absent, you put those tickets in there and get them back to us. The other tickets you just put back in the original envelope. We'll dispose of those, and then the next day you'll get another Excel spreadsheet with your tickets. And so that process will be a little different, but we think we've streamlined it, and we think that's going to work smoother this year. So blueprints, there is a blueprint function available if you as a classroom teacher, especially those of you if you're data driven or really get into the analytics, you can go into the blueprints and it breaks down each of the individual tests by category and percentage of questions that focus on certain issues. I've looked at them before. Generally, it's fairly in-depth stuff, so most teachers, to my knowledge, don't dig that deep, but just know that's available. And I will send out a little cheat sheet here, either at the end of this or tomorrow, with some extra resources in the blueprint. There'll be a link so that you can get to the blueprint guide if you want to use that. Online tools, the online tools training, or the OTTs, that is what I would recommend you guys use most with your students. If you are going to do any type of review, it's a great, I mean, it's online tools, but it is a great tool. You can do everything from introducing the kids so they can practice and see what kind of accommodations and what kind of tools that they have built in there so they can practice those. There's some practice tests where they can actually go through and get a feeling of what types of questions and how everything's going to be formatted. So if you, I know everybody's strapped for time right now, and Matt kind of snuck up on us with everything else going on this year, but I highly recommend, if you have time through your team, or you guys coordinate however you want to push that out, but do some review with kids and get them on those on the online tools training. This is just a picture of what you guys would see when you get on there. Most of you probably recognize the screen. You just go to the online tools training. There's also some tutorials. You can click down below and look at the DRC Insight tutorials, which are some recorded videos that give you some more information. But I would say you probably want to do most of your work through the online tools training. That's probably the most efficient function for reviews. So the portal or Insight, that's just the administrative platform. Mrs. Malone and myself have been on that. That's where we do all our test sorting. And then we already, if you haven't been on this yet, you won't need to. All of our SPED teachers have access to this because that's where they put in accommodations. But otherwise, for the rest of you, it doesn't really affect anything. So. All right, so required and allowed materials. Obviously, all the testing is moved to online, so everybody needs their, will need their laptop or a device when they're testing. Tickets will be provided. All tests now, that they changed that a few years ago, all tests are allowed to either use graphing or scratch paper, so you guys can just provide that to students as needed. If they use that, just make sure they shouldn't be walking away from the test with anything written. So just make sure they throw it in the trash or they give you the scratch paper on the way out. A couple new things because we're doing 8th grade. There are some reference sheets. We've always had the math reference sheet, but there's also for the 8th grade essay, there's a writer's checklist. And there's also, you can find a shortcut on the keyboard, shortcuts and icons for doing the different functions that you need in Insight. Again, that will be, I'll push that out to you guys so you can see what those sheets look like. But all of those are embedded in Insight in the testing site that the kids will be on. So they should be able to get those automatically when they're going through as one of the tools if they want to pull that stuff up, okay? Similar dictionary, all the kids that do all of your 8th graders that are doing the writing will have access to an English electronic dictionary. It's built in just like the calculators on the sections that they need it. So that's available for them as well. We already mentioned this, calculators. This was the section I have highlighted was just that one exception of they are allowed to use calculators on all sections, but they can only use the scientific and graphing calculators on sessions 2 and 3. And it's technically the test examiner's responsibility to monitor that. But just to make it easier for you guys and so we don't end up having a mistake or somebody well-intended and just forgets and lets kids use their calculators on that section and we end up having an issue. We're just going to ask on math session 1 if you can just have all of your students, ask them to not use external calculators and just have them use the calculator that's embedded. I know they're not as good as the ones kids are used to using, but for that one, just so we don't end up invalidating a test or having an issue. And then on sessions 2 or 3, I know math teachers have worked with the kids and encouraged them to use their own calculators on that and on the science section as well, okay? As far as allowed, obviously any calculator that's run through their computer or connected to internet, they can't have those, but otherwise any type of graphing or regular calculator that kids are going to be using are fine. Prohibited materials, cell phones and smartwatches are probably going to be the 2 biggest. We know all of the kids have, because we don't have lockers this year, we know all the kids are going to have cell phones on them. We don't want to make you guys liable or put you in the place where you're having to collect everybody's phone. So we're just going to do like same as you would in class, make an announcement at the beginning of class, cell phones need to be off, put away. If for any reason you see a cell phone, do take it because it can create a testing issue or a security issue. So make sure that you are monitoring that. If you need to call down to the office and have us come deal with the cell phone issue, do that. But we want to just, rather than you having to collect 30 cell phones from kids at the start, just make sure they have all those turned off. And just be mindful if you notice a kid with a smartwatch or something like that, just make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to. Only exception to that is if students do, we actually do have one student, I was talking to the parent today, that uses a smartphone or uses some technology to monitor their blood sugar. We can allow for that and account for that. We would just, and that's a 504 student anyway, so you would know about that accommodation, but just know that that is something we can make exceptions for if need be, and that's a state requirement. During testing, if you have a student that you feel like is interrupting testing, making it impossible for other kids to test, creating a distraction, we can move those kids. We have the library open for that. Use your discretion on disruption. And we want kids to be engaged. We want kids to be testing. And we know sometimes we're going to have that kid that shuts down and puts their head down and decides to go to sleep. In my book, that's not a disruption. They might be choosing to not do what they're supposed to, but that's not technically disrupting or keeping other kids from doing what they need to. So that's a situation that we'd ask as much as possible. I mean, if it's excessive, but as much as possible, you work through that. But if you do have major disruptions, contact me, contact the office, contact anybody in student services. We'll help you guys out with that. Also know the same function works if a student gets sick or needs to use a restroom for any reason, just needs a break. We do have that pause function on the test, so they can just hit pause and it's no big issue. And then they will, when they come back, they just restart the test. It lets you pause for up to 20 minutes without kicking you out. And then you can just continue as is. We don't have to have the big issue like we used to with paper tests when we're escorting kids to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. So if there are any technical issues too, the platform is set up so that it will save material as you go. So if we had a power outage or for some reason the kid's computer crashed, they will just need to restart their computer and log back in. All of their material and stuff saves as they go, so they should be able to pick up where they left off. We will also have, just for general tech issues and accessing the test, we will have Stephen on call as always and help with those technology issues. DRC Insight, if you guys remember, is the platform. It's the same one that's been there for kids to get on. I've checked with technology and they don't know yet. I do not believe that has been pushed out to students' laptops, but the district always does a mass push out to that, and then students will just be able to look up DRC Insight in their search boxes like they're searching for any other program, and once it's pushed out, that should be there. So just know that from a technical standpoint. Again, we mentioned invalidations briefly before, but just know we were talking about behavior and stuff. Invalidations cannot happen for student behavior. It's purely a logistical issue if it's a kid has a wrong accommodation. Teachers never have to worry about making the call on invalidating tests. It would only be for like a security reason or something like that. So if you think you have a major issue or you think you catch a situation of cheating or something like that, let us know and we'll address it from there. So kind of getting down more to the nuts and bolts. This is the general timing guidelines that DESE sends us. You can kind of see based on how the timing guidelines are set out will affect how we're testing. So like if you look at 6th grade ELA here, the first test session is 35 to 85 minutes. So that we're gonna test session 1 just as a standalone for one day. And then notice session 2 and session 3 are a little bit shorter. So those sessions will be run combined on the second day. For 6th graders, we'll test session 2 and 3. And also know that the last session that all students do on their ELA session is a listening strand. So there are headphones required. As we've always done, we want students to use their own headphones or earbuds. We do need to limit the AirPods just because there's the potential of internet access, but otherwise encourage kids to use their own. We are in the process of ordering some more headphones and we'll be able to provide, we'll have some down in counseling and we'll be able to provide probably 10 to 15 sets per class, or we'll probably just divide them out by teams and let you guys share them that way. But know that there will be some extra headphones and stuff available in case kids don't have them with them on that day. Okay. Math, and for 6th grade, you can see similar. Math session 1 and 2, the max is 45 minutes for time expectations. So for math, we actually are testing session 1 and 2 on the first day. And then session 3 is also a shorter section, but that gets its own session because it's a performance event. And similar when you look at the 7th grade is very similar to 6th, so I won't review that again. 8th grade, the biggest difference is they have an additional day where they do science. And then notice they also have a writing prompt, which is they give them a very long time just because everybody writes at a different pace. Generally, the pacing tends to be more at that 90-minute, 100-minute from everything I've read in the guidelines. But no, because of that, we are actually testing those of you 8th grade teachers and those of you testing 8th graders. We are actually going to test them out of sequence. And so the first day of ELA testing, your 8th graders will actually be doing their session 2 because it doesn't have to be tested in order. And then on the second day of testing, they'll be testing session 3 and 4. And then on their third day of their ELA testing, they'll actually be testing, going back and doing that session 1 longer section. Okay. And then again, math is pretty similar to everybody else. So that's the general guidelines. This is what we set up for our testing schedule, and I'll try not to be too redundant because I've already covered some of that. But if you guys look on, we're testing, our first day of testing is at Tuesday, May 4th. And we'll be doing, the first week when we're testing is all ELA, and the second week is science, second week is math, and then science for those students that need it, for our 8th graders. So just notice on our first day of testing, everyone's testing 1 session, just the exception the 8th grade is testing session number 2 because we're doing them out of sequence. On Wednesday, they're doing their second sessions, whether that's 2 and 3 or whether that's session 3 or 4 for 8th grade. Also note, because the 8th grade have extra testing, we can't come off of the testing schedule. We're still leaving the building on the testing schedule. But just know for the 6th and 7th grade teachers, you guys will not be testing students. They'll still come to your group, but you guys will not be testing students for that testing period on Thursday, May 6th. And similar for the second week. So that's actually your guys' team time. So if you guys as a team decide you have other activities or things you can work in, that as long as they're not gonna be anything new that anybody be missing out on or disrupting any of the testing for the 8th graders, just know that you guys are actually free on those Thursdays for the first 2 weeks. And this, I will send copies of the testing schedule out as well. So you guys don't have to memorize this, you'll get this. Second week, Tuesday, May 11th, we'll do math session 1 and 2, and that's for everybody. And then with the exception of our EOC kids, I'll hit that here in a second. Wednesday is session 3, and that will be a shorter day. So there's a good chance you may be able to do some activities or once everyone's finished, you can give them some study hall time or some time to work or even some team time if you need there once everybody's finished. And then similar on Thursday is the day that our 8th graders will be doing their science section, and they'll do both sessions. And again, the 6th and 7th grade teams will just have team time with their students there. For Mrs. Bates, just so people are aware, it really will just affect the 8th grade. And if you have 8th grade students, there's a good chance 1 or 2 of your kids or a few kids from your regular testing group will be pulled out and will be testing with Miss Bates for EOC. We have a sub for her, or actually Miss Berry is going to cover her regular testing group. So she'll cover her Miss Bates regular life ed testing group while Miss Bates is doing the EOC section for math. All right, this hopefully is a little bit more specific, and this is just kind of a recap. I've hit a lot of these, but these were just kind of all the notes and highlights that I want to make sure we pointed out. Again, first one is about the calculator. Remember, kids are familiar with their own calculators, so we want them using them when they can, if they have them. But we're going to have kids use embedded calculators for session 1 just because of the security issue, and then session 2 and 3, they're welcome to use embedded or their own. Testing tickets, we've discussed that already, will look different. EOC, we've covered that one. We'll be doing the map testing when everybody else is, or we'll be doing their testing when everybody else is doing the math section. Headphones will be used for the last section of ELA. I think we'd already hit on that. 8th graders have an extra day of the ELA writing prompt and science test. We've covered that. All the students will be tested. Okay, so this is important for you guys. I've gotten some questions from our Encore teachers. We are going to test kids, including our online kids, and I'll get into the online stuff here in a minute, but we are going to be testing our online students in face-to-face manner as well, and some of those kids will be opting to come in and test at the same time that we're testing. So for any of our teachers that have a virtual life ed class that we test through, all of those teachers and then all of the all of our Encore teachers that had worked with a group that had a smaller online group that they were working with when they did the NWEA. You guys will still have those students, and it will probably be a portion of those students, but whoever was on your testing roster will still be on your testing roster for that. And then they will just come to your classroom face to face and test with you on that day. So that way we didn't want to intermix our online students in with our general population just because of contact tracing and all of that kind of stuff. So this allows a way for our Encore teachers to still be engaged, and also for us to be able to break those groups down into a little bit smaller groups so we didn't have them all testing in those bigger life ed groups with all the online kids together. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions on that, let me know. As I said, I will send out a cheat sheet here when we're done with some links and resources and the testing schedule. So I'll just send that out to Plaza staff when we're done here. And then the last piece that we're going to kind of finish up with is just the reminder that all online kids, I don't know how much you guys know about this, but all of the online kids are required to test. We're trying to get them to test here at school. We've spent the last couple of weeks sending out a survey and asking parents to pick an option. So far, we're about 80 or 85% response, which is pretty good. That our goal was to get 80% response from our online kids. Kids have two options for testing. The first testing option was that kids can come in and test on the 4th through 6th and the 11th through 13th, just like everybody else. They'll test in their smaller NWEA online groups, just like we talked about. The biggest hang up for that is that those kids have to be able to provide their own transportation home, because we'll be done at 9:30, and we didn't want to have them hanging out all day and us trying to fill time. So those kids will just come in on whether it's 6th or 7th grade, they'll just come in on those 4 days. Or if it's 8th grade, they'll be coming in on 6 days from 7:15 to 9:30, and then parents will come and pick them up at 9:30 and get them home. The second testing option was that students, we basically are doing a super test day on Monday the 17th and Tuesday the 18th. That should not affect you guys directly. Miss Malone and I will be covering student services, and then the library staff will help us out with some extra testing there. But we'll be covering that, but we have made arrangements with the PE coaches, and we will be using the small gym down that we're using now for cafeteria. So we're going to have all 80 or 90 kids spread out in there and just doing kind of like a mass makeup or a mass testing session. So it's going to be fairly intense. We're going to get those kids through all the tests in a span of 2 days, and they will be there all day. So that also allows them bus access if they're not able to get transportation to and from school. So on those 2 days, kids will come to school just like they would on a normal day, but they'll come in face to face. They will need to find they'll come down to the small gym, and then we will have them down there and have either testing or breaks or activities that we're doing with them while we're on our lunch break. But they will be with us in the small gym the entire day, getting the testing done on 2 days, that Monday the 17th and Tuesday the 18th. I'm sure everybody's ready to get out, and I don't know if we have questions. Email me questions. You can ask now if there's ones for go to the group. But that is the conclusion of what I have for the training presentation. Let's see, and I'm looking at comments here.
So Matt, I know we have a couple of questions.
Yes, yeah.
And like I said, we would, just to, we'll take that and we'll look at those, Matt, and as well as Mallory, and we will definitely address some of those questions. I know there's a piece there talking about the specifics of the difference between calculators, scientific versus graphing calculators in the session 1 and session 2. So it might be something that I'll chat with you guys here in a minute, here a little bit after, to kind of clarify those pieces. But is there anybody with any other pressing questions about that? About just testing in general?
I was just going to answer Rulan's question that online students will test in person, so they will have to be here at the start of the school day.
Yeah, so like I said, that is a DESE piece. They said they sent out a memo to all districts, and then that was disseminated already to all of our online families, as Mrs. Malone already pointed out. Like I said, that our online families are already aware of those pieces, and I know our student services have worked diligently to contact our almost 200 online learners to get them scheduled for either option 1 or option 2. So they will have the opportunity to do that. So we've been working really hard at that. And so they'll either be here during when everybody else is testing, starting on May the 4th, or they will be showing up to our super test day, or on the 17th and the 18th.
I want to put a big shout out to Matt and Mallory. They have been working their rear ends off for the last 3 or 4 weeks to figure out the online testing, kids coming in for testing. And so that's been a lot different this year, so we've had to accommodate for that. But we are set, and I feel confident we're ready to go with that. Right, Matt and Mallory?
Yeah, and we like candy. Anybody that wants to thank us, feel free.
That's right. So, and it becomes even a bit larger challenge because we do have, so we have almost 200 online learners, and so trying to figure out what to do, how to test a third of our school and bring a third of our school online. That's definitely a challenge, probably more than most. So, kudos to our student services for putting that together. So, great work, Matt and Mallory.
I am going to stop recording this in just a second, but I do want to remind everybody, I think, Matt, you've got everybody has to sign off that they were trained for MAP.
Yes.
Just like you did for SOS.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. That's already, I know a number of you did it last time right away. So if you guys want to come down here, I'll leave the door open and stay here for a bit so you don't forget and can get it done. But that sign up sheet's just right outside my office, and just sign off that you, just like SOS, sign off that you were part of the, I see Dr. Singletary getting up. He may be coming down and signing off right now. I'm not sure.
And I actually am going to convert this recording into a video for YouTube viewing later if you want to come back to it and watch parts of it again, or someone's missed it. And I know, Matt, you're probably sending out the slideshow as well, correct?
Yeah, I'll send the slideshow along with that cheat sheet and the testing schedule. So.
What?
Is there any SOS stuff they need to mention too?
No. Yeah, Adrian was asking if there's anything for SOS. I think we're good to roll for that on Monday, so we're ready to go.
Dr. Singletary, anything else to wrap up? I'm good on my end.
Nope. Great work. And let's win the Super Bowl. All right.